Yo yo yo, what up dogs? Chris with another Patreon exclusive tutorial for you today. Today we're going to paint up this wonderful little Astartes Scout miniature, which is Games Workshop miniature of the month for August. I'm going to paint it up in the colours of the Blood Angels. So I love the new Scouts, I think the kit's great. I really like that there's a nice healthy group of options. I like how interchangeable the bits are with the Space Marine range. They're an interesting miniature because not only is their lore brilliant, especially Space Wolves, where their scouts are actually the veterans and they go on to become the scouts who go ahead of the main force. Anyway, Space Wolves. They're a really interesting mix of textures and surfaces. So normally it's power armor for days with a few little bits of ribbed undersuit and weapons. There's a lot of texture and fabric on the scouts, so they're an interesting challenge to paint because we want to try and vary up those textures using different techniques while also ensuring we get a good quality result. This guy is painted really quick and I think it looks great, so let's get started with painting up this Blood Angel. I'm going to start off as we most often do with a black prime and then a strong zenithal of white. This is going to set us up for our speed paints and any contrast we use. We're going to start with the fabrics, which are going to be pallid bone for a nice kind of creamy finish. Now again, if you've not seen my other videos, I massively prefer pallid bone over skeleton horde. I find it stains less, it flows better, it's got a lot more flow detergent in there, which means it spreads a lot faster. It's also nice because if we get this on areas that are going to be red or dark, it doesn't matter because the paints we're going to use later are going to cover those absolutely fine. So we're going to apply this all over his trousers, his arms, anywhere that's not power armors, pouches or boots or a weapon basically. So let's get these filled in quick styly. There we go, that'll do nicely. Up next we're going to attack the power armor. Now I'm going quite bright with this because I want to show these really cool reds from prowess. I've also subassembled the models so that the arms can come on and off so we can paint that Aquila with no problems. So this bold pyro red is super vibrant, as you can see. I'm thinning it down with water and applying this straight over that white armor, and it makes it really super and punchy, like almost like a luminous scarlet. So we're going to apply this over all the power armor features that we need to. We're going to try and avoid the bone fabrics where we can and just stick this where we need it to go. Super lovely paint. I'm a big fan of prowess, as a lot of you will know, but this bold pyro red and their reds in general are super nice. Here's our red down. It's a little bit messy in places, but don't worry, we're going to neaten that up as we go. Noble Skin, a speed paint from Army Painter. We're going to apply this to the pouches. You can use any kind of any wood or dark colour that you want for this, because this will probably be one of the darker points of the miniature. It's really nice because it goes over that pallid bone that we've scrapped everywhere. That absolutely fine, no problems. Again, you just need to be aware of these paints that they do have a lot of flow in them, so you need to control exactly where it's going. Do not overload your brush because it will flow everywhere and undo a lot of the work you've already done. So neatness here counts, as well as not overloading your brush. There we go, we're going to give that plenty of time to dry. And now we've got our Grim Black. As usual, I cop out for the boots. A black speed paint or contrast will normally suffice. So we're just going to pop this all over those boots. We're also going to very carefully apply this over the Aquila on his chest. If we do get it on the red, no stress, it's easy to tidy up. And considering this is going to be covered pretty much entirely by his gun anyway, still, it's good practice. The Aquilas on chest are great for practicing edge highlights and jumping up in colours. And this speed paint will help form what's basically a base layer for our black. Neutral Grey, another wonderful paint from prowess, and we're going to use this to start highlighting that Aquila. So really gently feathering each kind of quill that feathers out on these wings. You want to take it from about halfway between where one set starts and one set ends, and just pick that out with a really gentle little highlight. I'm using my orange brush size 1 here. Thank you again to those guys for sending me out a set of their brushes. They are absolutely fantastic. I've got a 10% discount code for all my guys to go and grab yourselves a set for dirt cheap. Head to their page, pick up the brushes in your cart, go to the discount code and use unrelenting, all capitals, for a 10% discount on a set of these awesome brushes. I really am impressed with these. So again, really gently feathering downwards to catch those edges, just to give us a little highlight where we need to. If you go a little bit berserk on your highlights, you can just go back in with some black or even just a little bit of black wash and it'll tidy up perfectly. Again, this is good practice. Don't stress too much because this guy's going to have a gun in the way. But Aquila is one of the best things I find for you to practice highlighting on, so have a good time, enjoy the process. Up next, we've got some Berserker Blood shade. This is a really nice shade from Citadel. The only problem is, like all their shades since they got reformulated, is they dry glossy, and I can't stand that. But it's fine, that's what we have matte varnish for, so we're just going to apply this in a really nice kind of thin layer, like a glaze over all the red armour, just to give us a little bit of depth, and to shade the red to be almost like a slight purple hue on the dark tones and the undersides and the shading and stuff. So there we go, we're going to carefully do this over all our red. Now, I'm a huge advocate for the Pro Acryl washers. They're great value, they dry nice and matte. They really make up for where the Citadel shades fall down. If you've got some good alternative shades or washers, I'd love to hear about them. Be sure to leave a comment. But for the time being, we're going to use this, like I say, on all the red panels of the armour. Don't forget the shoulders and the arms that we've got separate. We don't want to have too much. We don't want to have it so it pulls and looks all gloopy and horrible. We want to have it so that it slightly changes the hue of our red armour. Here we go, here's how it looks. You might pick it up on the camera, it's ever so slightly glossy. I hate it, but we can tidy that up later. Up next, one of my favourites is Orange Red from Pro Acryl. It's one of the Rogue Hobbies series signatures. I'm going to do this for highlights and almost use it like a glaze to glaze up the upper parts of the armour to be a brighter red. So it's a slight, very subtle jump up from the red we've used before. The shade's going to help us with that slight jump up. And this paint is already very thin, so thin it down with some water to form a glaze. I'm going to just apply this to all the upper parts of the red armour, just to give it that little jump up. Now, you don't want to overload your brush, you don't want to overload the model with this paint, you just want to really thinly, it's almost like somewhere between a glaze and a chunky highlight. I want to apply this on all the areas where we want to A, get rid of some of that gloss, and B, have the red jump up just a little bit. Now, some people are probably wondering why I didn't do the red with a speed paint or a contrast. There's a couple of reasons. First off, I rely on them a lot, and I like to sometimes switch back to the old style acrylic styles, things like what Games Workshop refer to as their way of doing it, just to keep me fresh and keep me on my toes when it comes to using water-based acrylics. But also we want to vary our textures. If we use a speed paint on the fabric and the cloth, it helps break up the textures to then use a different formula of paint on something else, so like a matte base acrylic on the armour. It differentiates those two textures because they're a different formula and have a different finish. Black wash, we're going to apply this to our Aquila just to tie in the grey and black highlights. We're also going to add a little bit on some of the underside of some of the armour, so things like those little nodules on the boots, just to push the depth, and it'll also get rid of that glossy shade where it's settled and got that horrible new gloss formula that they for some reason did. I do miss the old aggregates and non-oil. But that's why we have Pro Acryl's Black Wash and Brown Wash. So again, we're going to use this to push depth and to help nullify some of the gloss we've got on there from our Berserker Blood shade. So I'm going to add another layer of the orange red onto the shoulder pads just to level those out, because again you can see they're still a little bit splotchy from the shade. These are a really nice smooth bit of armour and a really good excuse for us to have a smooth layer on there. And again, it's one of the first things people notice about Space Marine is these enormous shoulder pads, and we're going to stick some transfers on those shortly. So again, we want these to be nice and smooth and neat, using our fiery orange red from Pro Acryl that we used earlier. Let it dry. Army Sand from AK, we're going to use this to put a few highlights onto our fabric. You don't need to do this, but again, it helps to up your standard when it comes to relying on speed paints and contrast to then use acrylics to highlight and go up on them. We don't want to completely go mad with this because, again, I like the fact that the speed paints provide the texture for the fabric against the acrylics that provide the smooth finish on the armour. So we're just going to use this to neaten out some of the fabric areas and practice some highlighting skills on there. These minis of the month that Games Workshop started doing over the past year or two, I think, are a great excuse for us to push ourselves, try new things, try new techniques, try new brands. So things like, I hate painting fabric and cloth and cloaks and any form of fabric. So this is a great excuse for me to put my finger out and try and up my game on those. So again, I'm just feathering some little highlights with this lovely smooth paint, just to A, up the colour a little bit, and B, smooth out some of the staininess of the contrast while leaving it in the recesses to differentiate our textures. Again, the fact these models are free, you just go in and ask for them, and hopefully your guys are safe and sound and sort you one out. I've got an array of these. I've got the Stern Guard Primaris, I've got the Kroot, I've got the Termagant, the World Eater Jackal. So again, all these would be great for tutorials. If there's a mini of the month you liked and would like to see me do a tutorial on, let me know and I'll get one queued up. So there we go, I'm happy with that. Smooth as silk. Let's move on to the face. So we've got some Crusader skin from Speed Paint. I'm not going to go into detail about how to paint the face too much. A couple of videos back, you've got my 5-minute face video. That's got all the details on there. There's no sense in me repeating myself when I want to get these tutorial videos out 3-4 times a week. So I'll pretty much follow what I did in that video for this guy. And with that, we'll go on to his hair. Now, one of my pet peeves in the hobby, and I know a few people who are guilty for it, is painting blonde hair with yellow paint. It's dumb, and I hate it. It's ridiculous. Start with real-life references. It normally starts as like a mousy brown or an off creamy brown. So like I've got this dark golden brown here from prowess, which can use that as a base layer. From there, you then add olive, pale colours and up to bone colours to then have your blonde hair. Blonde isn't yellow, it's more of a bone cream white colour. So Iraqi Army Sand here for the next level up. I mix this 1-to-1 with the golden brown we've just used. And I'm just going to do this on the top part of the hair. So the sides where that golden brown is, we're going to leave. And this is going to be our first highlight on there. Nice and chunky on the top of the mohawk. Really safe and sound and easy to do. It's very, very easy to make blonde hair look good with very, very few paints and very little effort. I'm then going in pure with the Iraqi Army Sand just for a little highlight on the edges. Now, it is quite close to the skin on this one. However, they're blood angels, they're pale, they're blonde, they're sons of Sanguinius, they're angelic and very kind of pallid and vampiric. So we're going to stick to that theme with this. And then I'm just going to stipple a few little highlights on the top of his hair to give the simulation of textured hair. And there we go, he's looking pretty good. I've applied the transfers. Again, you can see I've applied those in previous videos. This one's going to be a little bit quicker for reasons I have to get other videos out. We're then going to apply Procural's Dark Silver all over the bolter and onto any bits that need it. Things like the bolt pistol handle sticking out the holster. So thin this down with water, we're going to apply this all over the silver bits. We've also got the apparatus around his head, the pipes and tubing going around his head and his neck and down the back of his power armor, or his scout armor I should say. Yeah, just put these all out in a nice dark silver. Now when it comes to painting the bits around his head and his headgear, obviously be as neat and as careful as you can. Going right up to where the shade of the flesh is settled and ensuring we don't have any of that undercoat or skin colour where we don't want it. Now it's a red hot day here in the UK, so these are going to dry super quick. Once they are, we're going to go in with some black wash from Pro Acryl again and just hit all those silver areas with this. All the pipes, the bolter, his swishy headgear, the little nodules I painted on his power pack there. Just whack a little bit of wash over him. There we go. Ensure we get it into our drilled bolter barrel, because if it's not drilled, how's it going to fire? Leave that to dry, and we're going to hit it with a little dry brush of this Dio Light Metal. One of my most regularly used paints. I use it on almost all my italics, and we're just going to really gently tickle it. We're going to try and avoid getting his face and his armour. If we do, it's not a big stress to tidy up. And just give him little tickles just to bring all that detail out. I'm going to touch cloth a little bit as I get close to his face there. You can switch to a small brush if you've got it. But as long as you're gentle, you should be okay. Don't forget that pistol handle. Again, I'm being very brave here. At the end of the day, if we get paint where we don't want it, don't worry, it'll be reet. It's nothing we can't tidy up later at the end. Black Legion, so there's a reason I've not painted the bolter case up to this point, and that's because of that dry brush we did. Now we can go over it with a contrast paint. It's nice and thin. We'll get a very subtle highlight from the dry brushing we've done underneath it, and it's dead easy and simple to do without having to worry about too much cleaning and tidying up later. All we've got to do once we've done that is paint the little Aquila insignia on top of it. From here, once that's dry, you can whack a grey highlight over the black if you want to. I should probably do that out of habit, but I didn't do it because I didn't want to. Nearly there, folks. Now we're going to get some Dark Star Brass or any gold colour of your choosing, and we're going to use this on the insignia on the side of the bolter, just to give another little splash of colour in there. It's really nice and old school to have that really bright scarlet red armour, and then these really bright gold accent colours. Very 90s, love it. Normally there's one on the other side as well, but sometimes there isn't, so make sure your contrast is dry before you do that. I'm also going to do this little kind of Vox speaker thing on his armour in that colour, just because I think it needs a little bit of extra accent on there. Do a couple of layers of this paint because it is very, very thin, doesn't take very long to dry. And there we go. What a handsome little devil. Now when it comes to basing, this model is particularly bright, I would say, more than it is dark or neutral. So I want to contrast that with a dark base. So I just did some Astro Granite, washed it black, dry brushed it grey, up to an off-white. That'll do. Whack a tuft on later, and there's your man. So here we go, a really nice quick Blood Angel Scout. The only thing I did off film, because my phone ran out of memory, was I did a really, really subtle little sharp edge highlight on the edges of the armour with orange from Pro Acryl. So just on the shoulder pads, the sharp ridges of the boots, anywhere there's a sharp corner, basically you just want to give a little tickle of the orange. So there you go, thank you very much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I love painting Space Marines. Blood Angels are also really, really fun to paint. I've done a few of those for clients, and it's always a good time. If you enjoyed this, leave a comment, leave a like. All the support is enormously appreciated, and I thank you immensely for it. If you give me any shares and let your friends know, that'd be amazing. Don't forget, we've got the giveaway coming at the end of the month. Thank you very much. Keep kicking ass. Have a wonderful weekend. Let me know what you're working on in the Discord in terms of hobby, and I'll catch you on the flip. Peace!